Hello and welcome to A Book in 5 Minutes with me, Lindsay Milner. Today I'm looking at a book called 10% Happier and it's written by Dan Harris. Dan Harris is or was, I don't know if he still is or not, a news anchor in the US on one of the major sort of TV networks. And I came across this book by accident, really. It cropped up. Amazon suggested I might be interested in it, and I looked at the title and I thought, oh yes, I would be interested in it, and I ordered it, thinking that it was actually based on some scientific research. Only to discover that it's actually Dan Harris's story. As I say, he's a news anchor. But it's the story of how, well, let me give you the description that he gives. How I tamed the voice in my head, reduced stress without losing my edge, and found self-help that actually works. So, and I'm going to read off the back as well, but that's smaller print, so I'm going to need these. This is described by one sort of testimonial as the best book on meditation for the uninitiated, the sceptical, or the merely curious. And then it's described as a part confessional, part investigative journalism. 10% Happier is 100% engrossing. Now, it is 100% engrossing. It was a really interesting and fascinating read. I was already convinced of the benefits of meditation, so I didn't need to be sold that from that point of view. And I think from when this was written, it's a few years old now, when this was written, people were less accepting of meditation as a worthwhile and actually scientifically proven beneficial thing to do. And in the circles that Dan Harris was moving in, it was like, meditation, what on earth are you doing that for? Why, it's a load of new age hippie mumbo jumbo. Why? You're a news anchor, you're not the sort of person who meditates. So this is his story of how he came to investigate it for himself rather than as investigative journalism, how he came to investigate it and how he became convinced of the benefits that it brought to him and his life. The title, 10% Happier, is because one day he was just fed up of trying to tell people that why he was doing it. People were like, what on earth are you doing that for? So one day he just responded, because it makes me 10% happier. And having said that, as an almost instant response, he thought, do you know what? That is what it does. And when he decided that he wanted to write an account of his story, he then chose that for his title. I loved this book. It was such an interesting read. Interesting to read his story, interested to read, how and why he came to meditation. It doesn't quote scientific research. It's not a textbook at all. It's not, there's no references at the back with citations of pieces of research. However, it's obvious from the story that he's spoken to people who do have that research. He had mentors who are well versed in the actual scientific research, well versed in Buddhism. You don't have to be a Buddhist to get the benefits of meditation. That's one of the key messages of his book. But it's obvious that this is founded in scientific evidence, even though there are no references and no citations for it. What else did I really like about this book? The other key thing that it's got at the back is there are some guidance, that there are some tips and hints about how to go about meditating, use apps I have been using Headspace for a while, but another one that crops up that a lot of people seem to really love is Insight Timer. But there are written sort of guidances about how you can, you know, if you're a novice, if you're completely new to this, and you want to start meditating, there's a little bit of guidance in the back of this book for you. But essentially it is just this guy's story about why he thinks it's so brilliant and how he got to that point. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. You know, if you want to be 10% happier, and the 10% is arbitrary, you know, it's just a number that he plucked out of his head one day when he was being challenged by someone. You know, you can be 10% happier, and then in another year's time you could be another 10% happier. You know, it's not a quantifiable 10%, but like, I get it. I get what he's saying, and it's such an entertaining read. If you need to be convinced about meditation, read it. If you're just interested in this guy's story about, you know, being a news anchor and the stress and rubbish that came with that, read it. It's a grippy, it is 100% engrossing, as Daniel Goleman says so on the back. And I absolutely agree. I read it on holiday, sitting by the pool, read through it, loved it. Probably the best book that I've read in ages, for just the sake of reading it. That is this week's book. I hope you can tell how much I love this one. Go out, buy it, read it now. 10% Happier by Dan Harris. So that's this week's book in 5 minutes. I'm going to have to rename this a book in 7 minutes, because that's generally how long I take. But yeah, that's this week's book. I will see you next time. From me, Lindsay Milner. Bye.